We're continuing with our spiritual questions that I'll be offering you during our stewardship season. The question for this week is, how do you tell your story, so that it includes gift? So often the way that we tell our stories about who we are or what we have has to do with what we've earned, what we've been entitled to, maybe what is due to us. And while I don't think that's completely wrong, I'm not sure it's the most truthful or most complete way of understanding who we are and what we have. I'm reminded in Deuteronomy, which is kind of this pause right before Israel enters into the promised land, flowing with milk and honey, the land of abundance. Moses tells them goodbye and recaps the importance of all that God has done and the guidelines God has given so they can live in community in God's shalom and God's peace. And one of the things towards the end of Deuteronomy that Moses asked them to do is when they enter into that land of milk and honey, to give God the first fruits of the harvest of what they have, what the land produces. And not only did they give the first fruits to God at the temple, but they also, as they do that, they're asked to remember that their ancestor, Abraham, was once a wandering Aramaean. He was a man on a journey. He was homeless in some ways. And then they remember that their people were enslaved in Egypt, and they had absolutely nothing, maybe less than nothing, because their freedom had been taken away. But then God heard their cry and liberated them and then brought them through the wilderness. And here they are about to enter the promised land. How is it that we tell the story of who we are and what we've done and what we have in a way that includes the essential giftedness of our being? That's my question for you to ponder this week. And as you ponder that, I invite you to think about also how it is that we share, as a community, we share the incredible promised land that God has given us, the land flowing with milk and honey that we share, which is this church. Just last week, I was paying attention to how many groups were coming in and out of Grace. We had a wonderful experience of hosting the Haywood County Support Group for the Blind at our St. John's exhibit. It was extraordinary. We offered our space for the staff of the ARC of Haywood County to have a celebratory employee luncheon. We had our Tablescapes fundraiser, lots of people creating beautiful tables and then raising money for Pathways, one of our homelessness mission partners. We had our grief ministry team pray for those who have recently lost somebody and think about how our All Saints celebration is going to remind us of the reality of the connections between the living and the dead. We had quilters downstairs. We had Martha's knitting upstairs. And then in the afternoons, we had middle school after-school program meeting in our space, which they do now every week, Monday through Wednesday. It's such a blessing to live in this promised land and to share the bounty with others. God bless you. Until next week's stewardship reflection.